video. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me, for another Chuck Chat. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Would you check it out on the TV? Some of you we know are still dealing with issues with Channel 10 or 1890. Just want to remind you one more time that if you're having volume problems, it's likely that your DTA box, your cable box's volume is turned down, or your TV is turned down. You need to grab the remote for your cable box and turn the volume up all the way, and then control it from your TV as well. Turn up the volume on that as well. I always start off with a little humor. So, and you may have heard this joke before, but I thought it was a good joke and I was going to read it. It's one of Ronald Reagan's, which I often go look back at his speeches or jokes for inspiration. In court, the trucking company's lawyer was questioning Clyde. "Didn't you say at the moment of the accident, 'I'm fine'?" asked the lawyer. Clyde responded, "Well, I'll tell you what happened. I had just loaded my favorite mule, Bessie, into the..." "I did not ask you for any details," the lawyer interrupted. "Just answer the question. Did you not say at the scene of the accident, 'I'm fine'?" Clyde said, "Well, I had just got Bessie into the trailer and I was driving down the road." The lawyer interrupted again and said, "Judge, I'm trying to establish the fact that at the scene of the accident, this man told the highway patrolman on the scene that he was just fine. Now, several weeks after the accident, he is trying to sue my client. I believe he is a fraud. Please tell him to simply answer the question." By this time, the judge was fairly interested in Clyde's answer and said to the lawyer, "I'd like to hear what he has to say about his favorite mule, Bessie." Clyde thanked the judge and proceeded. "Well, as I was saying, I had just loaded Bessie, my favorite mule, into the trailer and was driving down the highway when this huge semi-truck and trailer ran the stop sign and smacked my truck right in the side. I was thrown into one ditch and Bessie was thrown into the other. I was hurting real bad and didn't want to move. However, I could hear old Bessie moaning and groaning. I knew she was in terrible shape just by her groans. When the highway patrolman came on the scene, he could hear Bessie moaning and groaning, so he went over to her. After he looked at her and saw her near fatal condition, he took out his gun and shot her between the eyes. Then the patrolman came across the road, gun still in hand, looked at me and said, 'How are you feeling?'" All right, so anyway, pretty funny. I wanted to invite Kathy Cody today to talk to us a little bit about COVID-19 and update us on how we're doing. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy Cody now. And she's sitting, as you can see, at least 6 feet from me, maybe a little more. So Kathy, it's all yours.
Good afternoon. So I have 4 main topics to go over, and this is changes every day. This is the most probably consistent things that are being recommended by the CDC, the Public Health Department. If you watch CNN, you'll get similar information. But I was just trying to kind of gear it towards Westminster specifically. So the first topic is, what is Westminster and the clinic doing to prevent an outbreak here at Westminster? So Westminster, as you know, has stopped all essential visitors. They're not doing any more group activities, no communal dining. They're serving everyone in their apartment to try to keep people, not really isolated, but social distancing basically as possible. 6 feet away is a recommendation. Westminster is also disinfecting all surfaces. As you may know, the virus can live on surfaces from hours to days. So we're disinfecting multiple times a day to try to keep the surfaces as clean as possible. We're also screening all staff and caregivers each day when they report for their shift. And if they have any concerns, fever, any symptoms, then we send them home. We're also reviewing all the time guidelines by the CDC, the Public Health Department, and LCS. The clinic itself has started decreasing visits to only essential visits. The clinic staff is asking that you only come down if you have a scheduled appointment and we have confirmed it. If you have an appointment and we're busy, we forget to call you, please call before you come down and confirm your appointment. We're trying to limit traffic in the clinic. We only want a certain number of people down there at one time so that we can also practice social distancing and decrease any possible exposure for y'all. Please call the clinic also if you just have any question, you want to make an appointment, you need refills done by us. We want most things done by phone right now if possible. If you are sick, we also don't want you to come down to the clinic. We want you to call us, and we will talk to you on the phone and determine if you need a home visit, if it's okay for you to come to the clinic, or maybe it's a question we can answer and you don't need a visit at all. We're disinfecting the entire clinic multiple times a day, and we are disinfecting in between each and every patient. So please be patient if you do come down there and you have an appointment. We have to wait 3 minutes after we spray for everything to dry, and it takes a little bit for this process. We are also limiting, I said that already, sorry. We're using universal precautions at all times. We're using personal protective equipment as much as we can and what's available. We are also practicing measures to try and conserve our personal protective equipment for suspected cases, because we don't want to run out. If we get a call and determine you do need a home visit and you could have coronavirus, we're going to show up in your apartment in our full personal protective equipment. We'll have a mask, we'll have a shield if available, or goggles. We'll have our gown and our gloves. And, it may even be difficult to know who we are, but we'll announce ourselves. We're doing this to protect you from us and us from you both in case you do have it. If we think you are a suspected or we're concerned you could have coronavirus, then we may quarantine you for up to 14 days in your apartment. If you are feeling fine and think maybe you don't need to be quarantined, you still need to have clearance to leave your apartment. Usually it'll be, if we test you, we get a negative test, or your symptoms are completely gone and we come and check and we say, oh, you're okay, you can leave before 14 days. But please, if you are quarantined, please abide by the instructions. It's to protect everyone and keep as many people safe and healthy as possible. So we're not doing it just to, keep you in your apartment isolated. We'll help you with trash, housekeeping. Well, not housekeeping, we may end up putting on hold, but we'll help you with trash, laundry. You already have meals, whatever you need, we'll try to figure it out for you. The other thing was, how does coronavirus spread? You can get it by inhaling droplets if somebody coughs or sneezes and you are within 6 feet away from them. They're saying 6 feet and more is a pretty safe distance. Most of the time the droplets will hit the floor or will not get to you. You can also get it by touching a surface that the virus has landed on. So if somebody walks through the hall and they cough and sneeze, even if they cover their mouth with their hand, if they put their hand on the handrail and then walk down, you can come 10 minutes later, don't know anything about the fact that this person was there, touch the handrail, and then touch your face. Okay, so the symptoms to watch out for coronavirus, you've probably heard a lot of this, but I'm just going to go over it again. Symptoms appear 2 to 14 days after you're exposed. Most serious and common symptoms that is being talked about the most in the media and everywhere is fever, cough, and shortness of breath. Those are highly suspicious symptoms. Definitely should be reported. But you also can have muscle aches, extreme fatigue, headaches, sore throat, runny nose, kind of like a bad case of the flu. If you have any of those symptoms, even if you don't have a fever, you should stay home and call the clinic. There are a couple of emergency warning signs that they definitely want you to call and report. Even if you're feeling it's not that bad, but all of a sudden you start having these symptoms, you should pull your cord or call 911. Difficulty breathing, not just mild, like pretty substantial difficulty breathing, persistent pain or pressure in your chest, or if somebody notices you're confused or you're noticing your brain just isn't functioning well and you feel really out of it, or if your lips are blue, and that would be if you just feel really, really weird, pull your cord and somebody will come and assess you and help you determine if you do need to go to the hospital. We are trying to only have people go to the hospital when they have warning signs and absolutely necessary, because the hospitals are going to be overwhelmed at some point with coronavirus cases, and it's a risk for you to go over there unless you absolutely have to. What can I do to protect myself from coronavirus? Like, you're feeling well, but you, of course, do not want to get it. You can wash your hands for at least 20 seconds whenever you're out of your apartment. If you go pick up your mail and come back, as soon as you get back to your apartment, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. If you cough, sneeze, blow your nose when you go to the bathroom, wash your hands for 20 seconds. You can also use hand sanitizer. If you're not at home and you're not near a restroom, you can use hand sanitizer. You're supposed to rub your hands together until it dries. The other thing is you can avoid close contact and do social distancing as much as possible. Let's see. If you have any symptoms of coronavirus, any of the things I mentioned, or you're just not sure, do not come down to the clinic, as I explained. Please call. We will talk to you and decide if you need a visit or not. If it's something mild and we don't think it's anything of concern, we'll discuss it with you and talk to you about it. Don't go to an emergency room. Don't go to your doctor. Some of the doctors are doing phone visits. A lot of them have triage right now. But it's better to just stay home unless you're having some of those warning signs or severe symptoms. If you have a mild or moderate case, if you just have a runny nose, a sore throat, you're just feeling kind of achy, not feeling very well, even if it's after hours, you can call the clinic and leave a message. We will call you as soon as we get back to the clinic and come and assess you. You don't even need to pull your cord unless you're feeling really sick. We're just trying to keep exposure down between even staff and residents, resident to resident, everything. So if you have any questions, you can always call the clinic. We'll answer anything you need to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I think it's important to mention that at this point we have no positive cases in the resident population or the associates. No active cases have been identified. We do have 11 residents that are being isolated or quarantined. 3 of those are because of travel. 5 are being tested. 2 because they've had contact with the hospital. As a precaution, they're being isolated. And then we have 1 because of symptom isolation. We also have 4 residents that are quarantined off-site, isolated off-site, due to hotspot travel. So they're staying either at a hotel or family home until they've been cleared for the full 14 days. And we know that's an inconvenience, but we think it's best to protect the safety of those individuals and also the residents that we're serving. We have 1 employee that is being tested but has not been identified with COVID yet, and 1 employee quarantined because they had gone to a travel spot that was a hot spot for COVID, and so as a precaution, they're not allowed to come to work until they've been cleared for the full 14 days. So recently, yesterday, an order was issued by the mayor, and also Travis and Williamson County both issued orders, stay home, work safe orders. That basically means that everybody needs to stay home. Of course, Westminster is your home, so stay here, stay safe. Though we are a healthcare entity, so essential services, including healthcare, are being allowed. Anybody that supports Westminster, being a healthcare entity, is allowed to work. It's an exception to the stay-home rule. So, even groceries that we need, deliveries, the workers that work on our site, we have limited the access to our campus, and everybody's being screened and temped. We're only allowing those people subcontractors that we've worked with for many years, some of them 20 plus years, access to our campus. So the lobby work continues, and that's one of the reasons the lobby work continues, because Valente's crew's been here over 20 years, and we trust them. We have a relationship with them, and they're supporting us. The CDC is recommending that everyone in healthcare has face masks or bandanas or something that they can use as a face mask. There is a shortage of personal protective equipment, especially the N95 masks. We are using those on a case-by-case basis with isolated residents or someone that identifies. In the meantime, we'll be passing out face masks or bandanas to our associates starting Friday. They will employ those during their work day, all day long, every employee. So if you see those, please don't be alarmed. It doesn't mean that they have COVID-19. It's a precautionary measure to protect the associates and also to protect you. It's a precaution. We are using those until we receive personal protective equipment. We've ordered 10,000 masks, should be here starting early next week. We have a limited supply on hand, and as I said, we're using those on a case-by-case basis. We are still recommending social distancing in public spaces, limited contact, and sanitizing your hands, both washing them and using the hand sanitizers that are available. Social distancing, everyone's having an issue with this, and we really need to practice it better. I've talked to the associates about it, and residents, I need you to social distance. It's to protect you and to protect everyone else. Stay 6 feet away. I know you're wanting to play cards and visit. You need to figure out a way to do it safely. If you can't do it safely, then don't do it. I'm being asked about visiting loved ones, visiting friends out in the community. Don't do it. Stay here. Stay safe. It's best right now, at least during the short term, to stay here and to shelter in place as much as possible. Limit your travel. Don't leave the community unless you absolutely have to. Contact us, contact reception if you need anything, groceries, whatever it happens to be. We have a little store open, a lot of things you can get in there. It's going to get more and more limited, I'm sure. It's limited out there in the grocery store. So let's just do the best to take care of one another. Getting questions about the pecan trees coming down. Yes, they are. Been talking about it for a couple years. We finally gotten the site plan approval. That's a good sign. That means the site plan for the expansion's been approved. When those pecan trees started to come down, that was your telltale sign that site plan was approved. We will be replacing those 3 trees with 2 red oak trees in that Preston courtyard, so keep that in mind. I know that some of you are really upset about it. Those pecan trees were in rough shape. They were partially diseased, that's why they're not losing their leaves like they're supposed to. They've reached their maturity. They just really weren't feasible for that courtyard anymore. They also drop pecans on the sidewalk, which is a safety hazard, so we'll be replacing those with red oak trees. Wanted to talk to you. I know some of you are not able to visit your families on iPads or your computer. You don't have them. We'll have iPads available in my conference room to check out on a case-by-case basis. So if you want to visit with your family on FaceTime, then you can do that. Just come by reception or my office and ask for one, and we can have you sign it out. Those should be available tomorrow, and we'll ask you to sign those out one at a time. Also, stamps are available at the desk if you need them. If you're wanting to get stamps at the desk in the lobby, you need to make sure that you maintain social distance, but we do have those available. I know a lot of you want to send a lot more letters. We are doing an audit of 1890 Channel 10 because we know there's issues. Reception is calling around, checking on those issues. We're sending Larry and Danny as available to handle those issues and address them on a case-by-case basis. Some of those we'll be able to fix right away. Some of those are going to take longer, but we understand that you're more dependent on that than ever. Let's see. Kathy, if you need to get to work, you can. Thank you for staying in here. Let's see. The census. So the government has passed out or sent us mail for the census. Most of you should have received a letter about the census taking this year. In independent living, you're being asked to fill out that information on your own. The government doesn't want us filling it out for you. They want you to complete the forms and mail back to them. If you need assistance, reach out to a reception desk and we'll be happy to assist you. But if you can, fill out that information on your own. If you're in skilled nursing, so the Arbor Healthcare Center or the assisted living, will be providing the information directly from us. You won't have to fill out applications. Where can my family get information on the website? You can get information, your family can get information at www.westminsteraustintx.org. In the upper left-hand corner, when you click on that website, you'll be able to get access, they'll be able to get access to the resident portal, which has menus, activities, announcements. These videos will be posted there as well. And you can click onto those and they can watch those and you can watch them as well. If you can't see this on 1890 and you have a computer, these videos will be posted so you can watch the videos live there. Minnie's hair salon is open. We consider her an essential service. Minnie is working because she provides services to senior living for the time being, and the governor and the mayor are allowing that. Yes, to the projects, we have the Preston lobby project is moving forward. That's part of the renovation that we've been planning. That work is underway. Why not, right? We might as well. The dining room, the Laurel dining room will be next. And again, these are trusted contractors that they'll be screened every day, but they've been doing business with us for more than 20 years and we trust them. I have provided an authorization to work letter to all of the contractors that we're allowing to come on the campus. It's about 10 individuals, and also all of our employees have received. If you have a personal service provider, a healthcare provider, please contact Robin Aiken's office and she can get a letter out to you that you can use for those personal healthcare providers, okay? We have limited apartment cleanings to 30 minutes. That's a necessary step so that we can sanitize the common spaces as often as possible, my goal being at least every hour. We ask that you, again, practice social distancing at least 6 feet away. We are receiving medications and mail at the front lobbies, the front desks, and we are personally delivering those items to resident apartments. So our staff is delivering those items now. So we just ask for your patience in those items, delivering those. I had some questions about the styrofoam boxes being delivered with meals. Are those recyclable? No, they are not. Those styrofoam boxes are not recyclable. We're doing the best we can with to-go boxes. We have a limited supply. There is an even more limited supply outside of Westminster. So we believe we have enough for several weeks, and we're continuing to order more, but there is a shortage everywhere. So you just need to be willing to accept the boxes that we're able to provide. Those are not microwavable either, so please don't try to do that. We don't want any fires in microwaves. Overall, we're in good shape. We have plenty of supplies, or adequate supplies. Just we're not able to be as choosy as we were at sometimes. We do like to use recyclable whenever we can, but unfortunately, we're just not able to do that right now. I do appreciate the notes of support that we've been receiving, the emails and the cards and the notes. I'm passing those along to the associates. It means a lot to them and a lot to me to receive those notes. There are days that things get a little frustrating with new orders coming down from the government all the time and the situation changing moment by moment. It's difficult to keep up with, and I know that it's frustrating to you all to be locked down to the degree that we are, and it's frustrating to the associates as well. So those kind notes are appreciated. If you send me an email or a note or something, I will be sure to pass it along, so please do send those. Thank you very much for those kind comments that I received so far. I know that there's a lot of talk about shortage of hand sanitizers and commercial sanitizers. The chemicals that we're using for sanitizing hard surfaces. We're in pretty good shape here because we've had department directors that are really focused on making sure that we had adequate supplies, so they were forward thinking and made sure that we've gotten those supplies. We've also identified other commercial sources for hand sanitizers. If we're not able to get them through our normal supplier, we found some additional resources and we've employed those. We're doing conference calls, virtual meetings, even for our board meeting and leadership meetings. So we're also trying to abide by the social distancing. More questions and answers. Let's see, are we admitting outside non-residents to the Arbor, the healthcare center? And yes, we are on a limited basis. We are not accepting anyone with a positive COVID-19 diagnosis, but we are accepting limited number of non-resident patients, independent residents into the healthcare center. We depend on that revenue. We need to keep those beds fairly full. We have allowed the census to drop down so that we have about 7 beds open at any time for our own residents, like our own life care residents. So those are available, and I feel pretty good about that number at this point. We can allow it to back down if we need to as we see the need. But for now, yes, we are accepting outside of Westminster admissions to our healthcare center. In fact, we have a couple employees that have loved ones in our healthcare center. How are we supposed to social distance by 6 feet and play cards? The answer to that is I don't know. It's really difficult. If you don't have 3 feet long arms, it's going to be really difficult to play cards and still remain 6 feet apart. I would say that if you're sitting at a table, a round table, that you should sit an empty chair between each player. That kind of gives you 3 feet. If you're sitting at a square table, maybe you only have 2 people at that table. You really do need to social distance yourself as much as possible. And I know you want to be together, and I understand that, but it's for your own safety. This is a terrible virus. If a senior gets it, the mortality rate's about 20%. That's pretty high. We don't want to lose any of you, so really consider that when you're out there in public or out there in our common spaces. Why don't residents know that social distancing means stay 6 feet apart? I've talked about it. I think the news has talked about it. That is what it means. Social distancing means 6 feet apart. Do your best to stay 6 feet apart, just in case somebody sneezes on you or tries to. Just keep that in mind. 6 feet apart. Do your best to do that. What do housekeepers do with respect to sanitizing the handles and other places they touch when coming in and out of apartments? Well, number one, they sanitize with a peroxide cleaner that has a 45-second contact time. So it kills 99.9% of all viruses and bacteria, including COVID-19. And they are sanitizing the doorknobs and the surfaces that they touch. They also put on a new pair of gloves at each apartment. So outside your door, they're putting on a new pair of gloves. They're sanitizing. They're putting on a new pair of gloves before they enter your apartment. And if there was an isolation or quarantine case, we would suspend services for housekeeping until the quarantine was finished. So another question was, what about their brooms, brushes, and vacuums? Well, the brooms, brushes, and vacuums are used for the floor. This is, again, a droplet precaution virus, so the likelihood of it being transmitted via a broom or vacuum is pretty unlikely. And you picking it up. Now, I would suggest that you don't eat off the floor. That would certainly make you more susceptible. I would also say don't lick the floor. If you do lick the floor, to wait at least 24 hours before you do. So after your apartment's been cleaned. I'm just joking, just don't do it. But again, it's a droplet precaution. You should be fine. We are sanitizing the surfaces. Let's see. Can Westminster use the influence of LCS to purchase sanitizer, wipes that sanitize, and sanitizer spray? Yes, that is being done as much as possible. There is still a shortage everywhere of personal protective equipment, and that's for everyone. It doesn't matter what your purchasing power is. There is simply not an adequate supply in the United States. We have an adequate supply of sanitizers and wipes, gloves, towels, even toilet paper. We're in great shape. But there is a shortage of masks throughout the country. We have identified, we believe, 2 sources that are going to be delivering to us over the next few days. So we should be getting some masks in. Until we do, we are being very restrictive in the masks that we have and making sure that they're employed in the proper protocol and that they're being very limited to their use. But we're doing all we can to procure the supplies that we need, and in most cases, LCS's purchasing power and Westminster's purchasing power is helping us be put at the top of the list. But when it comes to masks, that's the hardest thing. We have people out in the community sewing masks, residents here that are offering to sew masks. If you're able to, yes, that's great. But we are really trying to get the appropriate PPE and employ it properly. So then I had some questions. What about the expansion? Are we still on track? Any updates on that? Yes, the expansion is still on track at this point. The tax exempt bond market, if you've been paying attention at all, there's been about a 2% increase in the BBB rated bonds, which makes it really unattractive for us to go that route and finance our project with tax exempt bonds. I do expect that the stimulus package that's being passed is going to address that the federal government for the first time is purchasing tax exempt bonds. So there'll be some stimulus that'll help shore up those interest rates and hopefully reduce them over time, but likely we may end up doing another type of financing. If we do another, like an all bank financing, we won't be selling bonds to residents. It won't be an issue. That's not to say that we couldn't at some point in the future refinance using a tax exempt bond strategy, but for now that's kind of where the market is, unfortunately. I want to mention again, so back to the expansion. The expansion, all of the documents are done. The city approved the site plan. That's been done. So they're all red stamped. We're ready to go. The white construction will likely start on the off-site parking this week. Construction is an essential service, so they're allowing that to continue. We'll also start working on the marketing drive probably early April or maybe even next week. So we are going to be moving forward on those limited projects on our campus like I talked about, and also the off-site parking. As far as I can tell you today, everything's still on track to do the expansion, and I've had people come to me, in fact, just moments before I came in this room, why would you continue to expand, do this construction project with everything that's going on? And you know, the interest remains strong. The financing is a good plan. If it becomes unfeasible, then we won't do it. If it's not viable, we won't pull the trigger and do this work. But for now, everything's on track. We worked hard to get it to this point. We spent millions of dollars getting it to this point, and right now everything still looks like it's lining up pretty well. And there's more interest than ever. The waiting list, the ready list remains strong. People out there in the community are wishing that they were here because they feel like this is a good place to be, especially during a crisis like this. So I think the need is still there, and that hasn't changed. So everything right now looks like it's still on track, and I'll let you know if that changes, but for now, it's still on track. I did want to take a moment to read an email that we received. This is from a resident family member that believes they have COVID-19. They haven't had the test results back, but I just wanted to describe for you what this virus is from the patient's perspective. And this person says, my fever has been gone for 2 days now. My test was reallocated to a healthcare worker on the front lines. I can't argue with that, and I'm happy with their priorities. I wanted to let you know this illness is much worse than what I've seen people say online. It ravaged my lungs, and I was lucky to survive this thing, assuming I still do. I didn't think I was gonna make it at times. Please continue to be extremely vigilant against the virus, and protecting the residents of Westminster from this. So we're gonna continue to do that. Again, I appreciate everybody's cooperation. Thank you all, stay safe. Let us know if you need anything, call the reception desk if you need anything, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you next week. And we'll send out a Q&A kind of summarizing this by Friday. Thank you all, bye.